we get them. However, next we move over to West Asia, where a barrage of airstrikes have killed at least 32 people across Gaza City as Israel ramps up its offensive and urges Palestinians to evacuate. This has come from medical staff and the Associated Press agency. Palestinians in Gaza City have surveyed the damage after overnight Israeli strikes destroyed evacuated residential buildings. Many displaced families found their makeshift tents damaged, with nowhere left to go and unable to afford the journey south. Israel has intensified its offensive on Gaza City in recent weeks, aiming to secure the release of hostages held by Hamas. The Israeli military has ordered all civilians to relocate to the southern area of Al-Mawasi, designated a, quote, humanitarian zone. Let's listen in to what a few displaced Palestinians had to say.
امبارح في الليل قالوا لنا اخلوا بدهم يضربوا المنطقة هذه، ايش بيضربوا بالضبط مش عارفين. والله بعدنا تقريبا كيلو على المكان، زي ما انت شايف رجعنا لقى انا واخواتي وابوي وخواتي تقريبا 15 خيمة. هيك انت شايف هنا في خيمة، مش رماد، كلهم مجزعات مسطحة.
ما عارف انه نلاقيها مواصلات.
انا بدي اطلع على الجنوب، الحين انا بطلت اطلع الجنوب، معيش لا خيمة ولا معي مصاري.
وهذا هو اللي بيعمله تطفيش. اما هو مش نقطته انه يستهدف حماس او اي حدا من بده اياه يعني. وهدفه يطفشنا من هنا. يعني هذا ليش احنا معناش نطلع من هنا. من وين نطلع؟ بده 30 مليون تاع السياره لما وصلنا على الدير على الجنوب. كيف انا بدي اطلع؟ يدفع لي ما يدفعوا لنا مصاري نطلع من هنا. جيبوا لنا خيم بدل الخربت هذا والطحين الاكل هذا اللي احنا قاعدين من دمنا بنجيبه.
We are once again joined by Dan Perry, who is a world affairs analyst, and he joins us live from Tel Aviv. Dan, this offensive, of course, is framed around destroying Hamas. However, it is, of course, also framed around freeing hostages. With 32 people killed and the sites of the collapsed rubble, huge residential areas being leveled. How can you analyze this as putting the hostages' safety first and also, of course, reaching Israel's other war objectives as well?
I don't think it can be analyzed as putting the hostages' safety first. It clearly doesn't. It looks like the government of Israel is willing indeed to even sacrifice the hostages in favor of its other goal, which is not giving up the fight until Hamas is gone. Israel currently, I think, is not really negotiating with Hamas. They're not prepared to negotiate really anymore. They want to dictate terms of surrender. And while that may sound extreme, in fact, those terms of surrender were backed just yesterday by the entire world in a vote of 142, I think, to 10 in the UN Security Council, because what the world wants is a process that leads to a two-state solution in the Holy Land, Israel and Palestine, and it wants the PA, the Palestinian Authority, autonomy government currently based in West Bank, to be restored to Gaza from where Hamas kicked them out in 2007. And you want Hamas, which cannot be justified under any existing agreement or mode of governance in the world, a militia that undercuts the sovereignty of what is supposed to be the government, the PA, similar to what Hezbollah does in Lebanon and the Houthis have successfully done by taking over half the country in Yemen and so on. They want Hamas gone and disarmed, not just giving over the keys to power, but disarmed. And the leadership, if not arrested, at least exiled. Now, this is a mixed bag because Israel foolishly does not want the PA to return. They won't say what they do want. So right away, Israel is undercutting itself by not presenting a day after plan or even a day after wish list. Israel, yes. Currently, the current government is, again, too short-sighted to want the two-state solution, which constitutes Israel's own demographic salvation, because without hiving off Palestine, Israel's population will be half Palestinian. So it would either not be Jewish or not be democratic. So Israel's government is very problematic, but in their desire to take out Hamas, they align with a global consensus. Remember that the Arab League, including Hamas's erstwhile patron Qatar, all called on Hamas to disarm and give up the hostages and give up the war in the so-called New York Declaration of July. And yesterday's UN vote, which has been somewhat misreported as recognizing Palestine, actually simply called for the July declaration to be implemented, which is a two-state solution process, the PA restored to Gaza, and Hamas disarmed and removed. So what you see in Gaza right now is Israel's desperate efforts to somehow compel it by force. And I do not know if they can be compelled by force, because these are savage jihadist fanatics who are
Yes.
clearly willing to sacrifice Gazans. That's obvious, and probably want Israel to occupy all of Gaza City, be saddled with 2 million and some Palestinians that they have to house and provide welfare for and are responsible for, who are hostile, and deal with an insurgency for the next many years.
Dan, just briefly, because we're running out of time. There's a huge issue here, of course, and that is displacement. Gaza City has hundreds of thousands of residents, and the Israeli military says it drops leaflets every single time that there is a huge offensive like the ones that we are seeing right now. Israel has told these civilians to move to Al-Mawasi, calling it a humanitarian zone, but agency says it's overcrowded and under-resourced. How do you view this plan, especially since there has been Israeli airstrikes on that area in the past?
Well, it clearly can't be viewed as a particularly good situation for the Gazans. They either stay and risk death in Gaza City or go south to these overcrowded areas, maybe mainly tent cities, where the circumstances are dire and their health and nutrition deficiencies of every kind. It's terrible for the Gazan people. On the other hand, to advise Israel what to do is difficult. You know, it's easy to criticize Israel, but one thing that unites most of the critics is they don't have a much better idea what to do if they were in charge of the government in Israel. I mean, certainly I would do many things different. As you can see, I would certainly accept a two-state solution and absolutely restore the PA to Gaza. But the question of how to get Hamas to give up is which must happen, is not simple.
Yes.
And that's a dilemma they face. And an alternative would be to end the war and then condition reconstruction of Gaza on Hamas leaving, and let the local politics, take its course. And presumably, if Hamas continues to rule Gaza post-war, to rule over the ruins of Gaza and to stand in the way of a massive reconstruction, I have to think that the population would find a way to rip them limb from limb. But
Yes.
that is the ugly situation we face in the Middle East.
Dan Perry, thank you very much for joining us. Pleasure to have you on the program. We now move on over once again, and a Chinese envoy has called for calm and restraint at a United Nations Security